You don't realize it. Childhood trauma is secretly controlling your life. Carl Jung reveals the truth. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like something invisible is pulling the strings behind your choices, your emotions, and even your relationships? What if I told you that the root of these struggles might be hidden in a part of you that hasn't healed the child you once were? In today's episode on spiritual wisdom, we're diving into Carl Jung's profound insight on how childhood trauma quietly shapes our lives without us even realizing it. This isn't just psychology. It's a call to awaken spiritually, to reclaim your inner peace, and to finally understand why you react the way you do. If this message resonates with you, leave a comment below. What part of your past do you think is still influencing your present? Let's talk about it. And if you find this video helpful, share it with someone who might need this truth today. Your healing starts here. 1. Childhood trauma silently controls adult behavior. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This powerful truth from Carl Jung speaks directly to every man who has ever asked himself, why do I keep repeating the same mistakes even when I try to change? The answer might not lie in your willpower, logic, or present-day awareness, but in something much deeper, your childhood. You see, spiritual awakening isn't always about transcendence or mystical visions. Sometimes, it's about courageously turning inward and facing what has long been hidden. One of the most profound truths that spiritual wisdom and Carl Jung himself reveals is that the first 7 years of your life hold the blueprint for how you love, trust, fear, and even fail. If those years were marked by neglect, rejection, emotional absence, or shame, then those wounds didn't just vanish as you aged. They went underground. And now, as a grown man, you may not realize that those early traumas are still in control, steering the wheel of your relationships, your self-worth, your emotional reactions, and even your ambition. Let's take a closer look at how this plays out in real life. Maybe you find yourself emotionally shutting down every time your partner gets too close. Or maybe you overwork and chase validation because deep down, you still believe you're not good enough. Maybe you fear being abandoned, not because someone recently hurt you, but because, as a little boy, someone important left you or emotionally withdrew. That pain became a hidden script running silently in the background. Jung believed that what you don't heal, you repeat. That's not just psychology, it's a spiritual law. And until you recognize this pattern and bring it into the light of awareness, it will keep repeating itself, no matter how much success you achieve or how much you want to grow. In today's fast-paced world, men are often taught to man up, suppress emotions, and just keep going. But true strength doesn't come from denial. It comes from awareness, from having the spiritual courage to say, something inside me hurts, and I'm ready to face it. That's where the journey of spiritual awakening begins, not in pretending the past doesn't matter, but in finally giving it the attention it always deserved. When you begin to question the roots of your anger, your fear of intimacy, your emotional numbness, or your need to control everything, you begin the process of reparenting the little boy within you. That's not a weakness. That's transformation. That's what Carl Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole. So I want to ask you this. Are you ready to stop living on autopilot, driven by wounds you don't remember? Are you ready to step into a higher version of yourself, not by running away from the past, but by embracing it? Because this isn't just psychology, it's spiritual wisdom. And if you feel like there's something in your soul that's been silently asking for more peace, more meaning, more truth, then maybe this is your wake-up call. Healing childhood trauma isn't about blaming anyone. It's about taking back your power, rewriting the script, and becoming the man you've always wanted to be. The past may have shaped you, but it doesn't have to define you. And realizing that moment of truth is where your spiritual awakening truly begins. Comment below, "I'm spiritually awakened." 2. The inner child still lives within you. Carl Jung once said that the inner child never disappears. It becomes silent but active. This idea holds a profound spiritual wisdom that many overlook in the pursuit of adulthood. If you've ever found yourself overreacting to criticism, shutting down emotionally in moments of vulnerability, or pushing people away, even when you long to connect, you may not be reacting from your adult self at all. You're reacting from the pain of a wounded child within you who never received the safety, love, or acknowledgement they needed. This is not just psychology, it's a journey of spirituality and spiritual growth, because true healing means going beyond behavior to reach the roots of your soul's suffering. Think about the man who can't receive praise without flinching internally, or the woman who constantly sabotages healthy relationships because love feels unfamiliar. These aren't flaws, they're signals. They're signs that somewhere deep within, a part of you is still protecting that child who once felt abandoned, unseen, or unloved. The wound doesn't need to be dramatic to be real. It could be the silent treatment you received as a child, the feeling of never being good enough, or the pressure to be perfect just to earn love. All these small cracks in your early world form the blueprint of how you relate to people, emotions, and yourself. And what's more, your inner child doesn't age out. It lives quietly, influencing your choices, your fears, your dreams. You might be wondering, but I've grown up. I'm strong now. Yes, you've built layers of logic, success, resilience, but underneath, your wounded child might still be steering the ship every time you're triggered. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you paused and truly asked your inner child how they were doing? In today's world, where we're taught to move fast, tough it out, and keep our heads down, this kind of inner listening is rare, but it's also spiritual. Spirituality isn't just about rituals or meditation. It's about wholeness. And wholeness means reintegrating the parts of yourself you've abandoned, especially that inner child who still waits for you to return. In my own life, I once met a man who spent decades achieving outward success, but struggled to connect with his own children. After therapy, he realized that his emotional numbness wasn't a choice. It was a shield built by the boy inside him, who was never hugged, never told, "I'm proud of you." The day he wept for that boy, not with shame, but with compassion, was the day he finally broke the cycle. This is the spiritual wisdom that Carl Jung brought to the world. That our healing lies not in the future, but in going back to collect the lost pieces of ourselves and holding them with love. So ask yourself, what behaviors in your life are actually echoes of childhood pain? What have you dismissed as the way I am that might actually be how I learned to be? And more importantly, are you willing to unlearn them, not just to function better, but to feel whole? Because the truth is, spiritual growth begins not with becoming a new person, but with remembering the old one. The child who felt too much, wanted too much, or was hurt too much. Let that be your turning point. Let that be your awakening. Healing the child within you is not a weakness. It is the most courageous spiritual act you can take. And maybe today is the day you start. Show your determination by commenting below, "I start today." 3. Complexes are formed from emotional wounds. Let's talk about something Carl Jung spent a lifetime exploring: how your past, especially your childhood, might still be running the show behind the scenes. According to Jung, when children go through painful or confusing emotional experiences, whether it's feeling rejected by a parent, being criticized at school, or simply sensing abandonment, even for a short while they absorb this pain without knowing how to process it. He called the emotional residue of these early wounds complexes. And here's the important part. These complexes aren't necessarily born from extreme trauma. Sometimes they form from subtle, almost invisible moments: a raised eyebrow, a disappointed sigh, a parent walking away when we needed them most. These small events build emotional patterns, and over time, these patterns become our reactions, our triggers, our fears, our relationships, and even our beliefs about ourselves. Jung believed that complexes are like islands of pain in the unconscious, fueled by emotional energy that was never resolved. And what makes them so dangerous is that they act without our awareness, pulling strings in the background while we wonder why we keep choosing the wrong partners, sabotaging opportunities, or feeling stuck in the same cycle. As Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Think about that. What if what you call bad luck, failure, or just the way I am is actually a spiritual invitation to uncover an old wound you've never looked at? You see, the power of spiritual wisdom is not in escaping our past, but in illuminating it. Once you realize your emotional reactions have a history, that your fears have a childhood, you stop blaming yourself and you start healing. You start growing. So let me ask you, what patterns in your life feel familiar yet painful? What situations seem to repeat over and over again, despite your best efforts to change? Could those be signs of a complex that's quietly influencing your adult behavior? Carl Jung gave us a language for this inner work, but it's your courage and self-honesty that turns insight into transformation. You don't need to be perfect, just willing to see. Because healing doesn't come from suppressing the past, it comes from facing it with compassion. And if you're on this path of spiritual awakening, know that uncovering these unconscious patterns is not a detour, it is the journey. Keep asking questions, keep paying attention, and most of all, keep showing up for the child inside who never stopped needing your love. Now I invite you to reflect. What emotional response in your daily life might actually belong to your inner child? Let us know in the comments, because sharing your story could be the first step in someone else's healing too. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. 4. The shadow self hides repressed pain. Have you ever felt a sudden wave of anger, sadness, or shame that seemed to come out of nowhere, like someone pressed a hidden button inside you? Carl Jung, the pioneer of analytical psychology, introduced the concept of the shadow self, a part of your unconscious that stores the emotions, memories, and instincts you were forced to hide or deny as a child. This shadow isn't evil, it's simply unacknowledged. As young boys, many of us were taught that crying was weakness, that anger was dangerous, and that being vulnerable made us less of a man. So we buried those feelings deep down, trying to be strong and acceptable. But here's the spiritual truth. What we repress doesn't disappear. It transforms. It comes back as chronic stress, sudden emotional outbursts, self-sabotaging behaviors, or even mysterious physical pain. And it sneaks into our relationships, making us defensive, distant, or overly controlling without realizing why. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's not just a poetic line, it's a warning. These unresolved wounds silently run your emotional operating system, making decisions for you without your permission. So what does spiritual awakening mean in this context? It's not about escaping your past. It's about courageously turning toward it. It's about facing the shadow and saying, "I see you. I won't abandon you anymore." That act alone begins to dissolve the pain. In modern life, this might mean recognizing how your childhood fear of being abandoned causes you to overwork just to feel worthy, or how your suppressed anger shows up every time someone challenges your authority. You can't fix what you don't face. But when you do face it, with honesty and self-compassion, you begin the sacred work of integrating the shadow. And integration is freedom. It's how the fragmented boy inside you finally grows into a whole man. This journey is not about blaming your parents or your past, but about reclaiming the power that has been locked away by those hidden emotions. If you are someone who feels stuck in the same emotional loop, or is sabotaging the very things you desire most, love, peace, purpose, ask yourself this: what part of me have I been running away from? That question alone can open the door to healing. And through that door, you will find not just your pain, but also your power. Not just your fear, but also your truth. And not just your wounds, but also your spiritual wisdom. This is an invitation to awaken, not to become a new person, but to finally meet the parts of yourself that you have ignored for so long. So take this time to pause and reflect. What might your shadow self be trying to tell you today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 5. Projection reveals unhealed parts of yourself. One of the most powerful concepts Carl Jung introduced was projection, the unconscious act of placing our own hidden emotions, unmet needs, and childhood wounds onto others. He once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And that statement still carries profound spiritual wisdom. Think about it. How often do you find yourself getting disproportionately angry or upset with someone, only to later realize that what triggered you was actually something unresolved within you? In many cases, this isn't just coincidence. It's your inner child reacting to old pain that has never been properly healed. When you were young, If your emotional needs weren't met, perhaps you were ignored, criticized, or made to feel like your feelings didn't matter. Your psyche learned to suppress that pain just to survive. But those wounds don't disappear. They hide in your subconscious and quietly influence your adult life. Then, when someone behaves in a way that even slightly resembles what hurt you before, your nervous system reacts as if that original pain is happening all over again. For example, if you felt abandoned as a child, you might now feel deeply triggered when a partner takes longer than expected to reply to a message. It's not really about the message, it's about the spiritual scars you carry. This is why spirituality and emotional self-awareness are so deeply connected. True spiritual growth requires us to look within and ask ourselves, what am I projecting onto others? What part of me is still aching to be acknowledged, accepted, and healed? Let me share a story from a client I once worked with, a man in his 40s who constantly clashed with his teenage son. Every argument seemed to spiral out of control, and he blamed his son for being disrespectful and stubborn. But when we dug deeper, he realized that the anger he felt wasn't really about his son. It was about his own father, who used to silence him and dismiss his feelings as a child. Without even knowing it, he was projecting his unhealed relationship with his father onto his son, continuing the same emotional cycle. Only when he acknowledged this could he begin to break the pattern. This is the kind of spiritual wisdom that Carl Jung's teachings offer us, not just theory, but practical insight into how to reclaim our power, rewrite our emotional script, and finally begin the spiritual growth we've been unconsciously craving. So I ask you now, who in your life are you projecting onto? Who triggers you the most? And what might that reveal about the wounds you've been carrying in silence? This isn't about blame. It's about responsibility. It's about choosing to stop living on autopilot and start consciously engaging in your healing. Spirituality isn't just about meditation or rituals. It's about having the courage to face yourself and the maturity to own your story. Healing illumination is one of the most sacred steps on the spiritual path because it forces you to move beyond your old identity and meet yourself with honesty and compassion. And remember, healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means becoming aware enough to not let it control you. So if this resonates with you, take a moment today to reflect. What am I still refusing to see in myself that the world keeps showing me through others? Because when you finally understand that, you will not only find peace, you will find your power. Comment below, I choose to escape from my painful past. Six, the persona masks your true self. Let's talk about something that touches far more of your life than you may realize: the mask you wear. According to Carl Jung, the persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself, as well as others, think one is. And it's not just a metaphor. It's a survival mechanism you likely developed during childhood without even knowing it. You see, when we're young, our emotional safety depends on the love and approval of those around us. So when we experience rejection, criticism, or conditional affection, our subconscious adapts. We begin to wear a mask, a persona that wins us approval, attention, or safety. Maybe you became the achiever, the caretaker, the clown, or the quiet one. But here's where it becomes dangerous. Over time, this mask becomes so ingrained that you start to believe it's who you really are. Yet deep down, a quiet ache grows, a spiritual emptiness that whispers, "This isn't me." Have you ever looked at your life and wondered why, despite everything you've done right, you still feel unfulfilled? That's not failure. That's a signal. That's your soul calling you back to your true self. This is where spiritual wisdom becomes essential, not as a lofty idea, but as a guide to reconnect with the parts of yourself you buried just to feel accepted. Think about it. How many of your current habits, roles, or decisions come from the mask you created, not your authentic truth? This is not about blame. It's about awareness. Jung believed that this disconnection from the self leads to chronic dissatisfaction, a kind of inner homelessness. And no amount of success, validation, or applause can fill that void if you're living a life designed to please others rather than express your soul. In today's world, we're praised for having it all together, but rarely are we encouraged to pause and ask, who am I beneath all this? So I ask you, what version of yourself are you still holding on to just to feel loved or worthy? What would it take to remove that mask, even just a little, and allow your true self to breathe again? The journey to healing doesn't start with changing everything on the outside. It begins by remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. As painful as childhood wounds can be, they often carry a hidden doorway to spiritual awakening. And if you're listening to this, that means the door is opening. Let this be your invitation to explore the parts of yourself you've neglected, not to shame them, but to honor them. Because the deeper truth is this: the real you has always been there, waiting patiently beneath the mask. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. 7. Trauma can be inherited and repeated across generations. Have you ever stopped to consider that the pain you carry may not even be yours? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That statement hits even harder when you realize that trauma can be passed down through generations like a family heirloom, one that no one wants, but few recognize. You may be living out patterns, emotional wounds, and self-sabotaging behaviors that originated not from your own life experiences, but from those of your parents, your grandparents, or even further back. Without spiritual awareness, this unconscious loyalty binds you to your lineage's suffering, as if your soul is trying to finish a story that began long before you were born. In the absence of healing, this inherited trauma continues its cycle, father to son, mother to daughter, until someone finally says, enough. And that someone could be you. That is the call of spiritual awakening, not just to heal yourself, but to cleanse your bloodline, to become the conscious link that refuses to pass the pain forward. In today's world, where masculinity is often associated with stoicism and silence, men are rarely given the space to explore these hidden inheritances. But real strength lies not in suppression, but in transformation. When you begin to see that your anger, your emotional detachment, or your persistent fear of failure might stem from the unspoken grief of your father, or the trauma your grandfather never processed, everything changes. You begin to realize this is not weakness, it is a spiritual responsibility. So I ask you, what unhealed story might you be carrying that is not yours to bear? Are you ready to look beyond your personal wounds and see the deeper layers that have shaped your identity. The journey of individuation, Jung's term for becoming your true self, is not a solo path. It's a sacred rite that liberates not only you, but those who come after you. Breaking generational trauma is not just self-help, it is a profound act of spiritual courage. And as you walk this path, remember, the pain you refuse to confront today will be the burden your children carry tomorrow. But the healing you choose today can become their freedom. What legacy will you leave behind? One of unconscious repetition or one of awakened redemption? This is your moment to choose. 8. Healing requires integration, not avoidance. Most people believe healing means forgetting, suppressing, or simply moving on. But Carl Jung, one of the most influential voices in spiritual psychology, taught something radically different. He said, "Healing is not about forgetting your wounds. It's about integrating them." This is the essence of true spiritual wisdom. Healing requires integration, not avoidance. If you've ever felt like your past is quietly driving your present choices, reactions, or relationships, it's because unhealed wounds don't just disappear. They adapt, they hide, and they whisper through your behaviors. Jung called this the process of individuation, where you courageously face the parts of yourself you've buried, your shadow, your inner child, the rejected and vulnerable aspects of your psyche. And through spiritual growth, not only do you recognize these parts, but you also learn to hold them with compassion instead of shame. It's not an easy path, but it's the one that leads back to your authentic self, the version of you that isn't ruled by pain or fear, but guided by presence and purpose. Let me ask you something. Have you ever reacted in a way that surprised you? Like getting overly angry, withdrawing completely, or sabotaging something good, and afterward thought, "Why did I do that?" That's often the voice of an unacknowledged wound making itself known. Take John, a man in his 40s who struggled with emotional intimacy. Every time his partner got too close, he found a reason to create distance. Through therapy rooted in Jungian principles, he uncovered deep abandonment trauma from childhood memories he hadn't thought about in years. Instead of avoiding those memories, he began to confront them, write letters to his younger self, and sit with the emotions that came up. Slowly, he started responding instead of reacting, and for the first time, he experienced love without fear. That's what spiritual healing looks like in real life. Not just feeling better, but becoming more whole. And this is what spirituality teaches us. It's not about being perfect or avoiding pain, but about growing through it, allowing it to shape us into something wiser, softer, and stronger. So I invite you to ask yourself, what part of you are you still avoiding? Which memories still tighten your chest or shape your fears? The work of integration is not about fixing yourself. It's about meeting yourself where you are, with honesty and tenderness. And through that process, your spiritual awakening deepens. You begin to live from awareness, not from survival. You respond to life instead of being hijacked by old scripts. And in doing so, you reclaim your power and reconnect with your truth. The lesson here is clear. Avoidance keeps you stuck, but integration sets you free. And if you're ready to take that journey, start with one small step. Sit with yourself, gently, and listen. Healing isn't a destination. It's a devotion to your own be. And as we close this chapter together, remember, what Carl Jung revealed about childhood trauma isn't just theory. It's a mirror to your inner world, a call to awaken the part of you that has long been buried beneath pain. Today's video explored how unresolved wounds from your past may still be shaping your present, your emotions, your relationships, and your deepest beliefs. But awareness is the beginning of transformation. So I invite you to take this knowledge and turn it into action. Reflect on what part of your inner child needs your love and attention right now. Share your thoughts in the comments. What moment in this video struck a chord with you? What truth are you now ready to face? At Spiritual Wisdom, we honor your courage and your voice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell so you never miss a step on this sacred journey of healing. Your story matters. Your healing matters, and you are not alone. If this is happening in your body, you are experiencing a spiritual awakening. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi, welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we explore the deep truths that lead to lasting transformation. Today's video uncovers a powerful truth. Spiritual awakening doesn't always look like peace. It often begins in the body, through discomfort, fatigue, or unexpected emotional shifts. These physical signs are not setbacks. They are signals that your soul is expanding beyond the limits of the old self. As you listen, reflect on your own journey. Have you felt these changes lately? Leave a comment below sharing your experience, and let's grow together. If this message speaks to you, like and share it to help others recognize the signs of their own awakening. 1. Spiritual awakening is not always peaceful. Many people assume that a spiritual awakening feels like entering a state of calm clarity, where life suddenly becomes peaceful, joyful, and effortlessly aligned. But in truth, the process is rarely so gentle. What actually happens for most is far more intense and confusing. It often begins with a deep internal disruption, a shaking of everything you once believed to be stable. You might feel overwhelmed, disoriented, and even physically unwell. These are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are signs that your inner world is shifting, breaking down old patterns to make space for something much deeper to emerge. The body reacts first. It may begin to purge old energy, and you might experience unusual physical symptoms, headaches, fatigue, body aches, or hypersensitivity to light and sound. These aren't random sensations. They are the body's way of realigning itself to a higher vibration as your consciousness expands. As your spiritual energy rises, your physical vessel has to catch up. It's adjusting to a new rhythm, and that transition can feel exhausting. Yet, it is necessary. These discomforts mark the beginning of a profound transformation. At the same time, emotionally, you may swing between extremes. You might feel moments of deep love and understanding, followed by waves of sadness, anger, or fear. Old wounds you thought you had forgotten rise to the surface, not to torment you, but to be released. This emotional detox is essential. It's the soul's way of clearing out everything that is no longer in harmony with your truth. You may start to question everything about your job, your relationships, your purpose. This questioning is not a crisis. It is clarity forming through chaos. Your awakening challenges your old identity. It strips away false beliefs and forces you to see yourself and the world with new eyes. This can feel deeply uncomfortable, even painful. But it is also empowering, because with every layer that falls away, you become more aligned with who you truly are, not the version of yourself shaped by fear, survival, or expectations, but the soul-led self that's been waiting to rise. And as that self emerges, the confusion begins to shift into knowing. The pain begins to transform into power. The chaos begins to settle into peace. These experiences, both physical and emotional, are not setbacks. They are evidence that you are being initiated into a higher level of consciousness. A spiritual awakening is not always peaceful, but it is always purposeful. Every ache, every tear, every doubt is part of the sacred unraveling that brings you closer to your authentic self. Comment below, "I embrace the awakening," if you're ready to honor your spiritual journey, even through the chaos. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights that support your transformation. Tap the bell so you never miss a moment of truth. 2. Physical symptoms and body transformation. Your body is not just flesh and bones. It is a living reflection of your spiritual evolution. When you begin to experience a true spiritual awakening, one of the most noticeable shifts often happens within your physical body. You may suddenly find yourself dealing with unexplainable weight changes. One moment, your clothes feel tighter. The next, they hang loosely. These fluctuations aren't random. They're signs that your body is energetically detoxing, releasing years of stored trauma, emotional suppression, and lower vibrational energies. Every pound lost or gained might represent layers of pain or protection that your soul no longer needs to carry. Your posture may subtly shift without you even realizing it. You might begin to stand taller, with more openness in your chest, or your shoulders might soften after years of unconscious tension. These changes come from within. As you let go of old stories, guilt, fear, and emotional burdens, your physical frame begins to mirror that inner liberation. It's as if the body is sighing in relief after holding in so much for so long. Even your facial expressions may change. Your eyes might appear brighter, your skin more vibrant, reflecting a lighter spirit within. Energy levels are another clear indicator of this transformation. One day, you may feel a deep fatigue, as if your body is weighed down by something invisible. The next, you might feel bursts of energy and creativity that seem to come from nowhere. These waves are not irregularities. They're part of your nervous system, adjusting to the higher frequencies of spiritual consciousness. Your body is recalibrating itself to match your expanding awareness, which requires periods of stillness and restoration, followed by spurts of energetic alignment. The truth is, your body remembers everything. As Dr. Joe Dispenza says, your body is your unconscious mind. That means the aches, the tension, the sudden cravings or aversions, they all hold meaning. When spiritual awakening begins, it triggers the body to process what the mind may not fully understand yet. Old emotions rise to the surface so they can be felt, healed, and released. Your physical vessel becomes an active participant in your rebirth, constantly communicating with you through symptoms, sensations, and subtle messages. This is why honoring your physical self is crucial during a spiritual awakening. When your body signals exhaustion, don't push rest. When it craves water, movement, or silence, listen. Treat your body as sacred because it is. It is the temple that carries your soul through this transformation. The fatigue, The restlessness, the tingling sensations, or sudden tears, they are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of your spiritual DNA activating, your inner light pushing through old darkness, and your spirit realigning with truth. Understanding these physical symptoms can help you stop fearing them and start honoring them as sacred milestones. You're not falling apart, you're shedding layers that no longer belong to the person you're becoming. This is healing. This is awakening. And it's happening not just in your thoughts or emotions, but in every cell, every muscle, every breath of your being. If this message resonates with what you're experiencing in your body, leave a comment of faith. I trust the transformation. My body is healing, and my spirit is rising. Let this be your declaration of alignment with divine healing and renewal. 3. Emotional release, reflected in the body. One of the most powerful but often overlooked signs of a spiritual awakening is how your body responds to deep emotional healing. When you begin to release suppressed emotions, especially those tied to past traumas or limiting beliefs, your physical form starts to reflect that release in subtle yet noticeable ways. You may experience sudden weight loss, not because you changed your lifestyle, but because your body is no longer carrying the emotional burden it once did. The nervous system, once locked in a state of fight or flight, begins to relax, signaling that the old survival-based tension is no longer necessary. As emotional weight dissolves, physical weight can go with it. Alternatively, you might notice moments of water retention or swelling in certain areas of your body. While this may seem alarming, it's often the body's way of holding space for deep emotional processing. In many spiritual traditions, water is a symbol of emotion, and your body, like a tide, may swell during times of intense energetic movement. It's not random. It's not dysfunction. It's evidence of release of transformation. Your body is purging energetic residue that it has quietly held onto, sometimes for decades. These changes are not symptoms of something going wrong. They are signals that something sacred is being made right. When you confront emotional wounds, whether through inner work, therapy, meditation, or forgiveness, the stored memories within your cells begin to shift. It is a process of energetic detox. Old pain might temporarily rise to the surface as your body clears space for new frequencies. Some people experience temporary fatigue, skin breakouts, or muscle tension. Others feel vibrations or tingling sensations throughout their body. All of this is a reflection of internal restructuring, a literal rewriting of the energy patterns that once defined your emotional reality. The body, in its wisdom, does not lie. It doesn't care about social masks or appearances. It responds only to truth. And during a spiritual awakening, truth becomes unavoidable. Every layer of unresolved emotion, every inherited belief that no longer serves you, begins to surface, and your body becomes the mirror. You may feel discomfort, confusion, or even fear as these changes arise. But the key is to stay present and listen. Your body is not malfunctioning. It is recalibrating. It is purifying itself so that your spirit can rise unburdened. This is especially significant for men who, for years or even lifetimes, have been conditioned to suppress emotions and disconnect from the language of the body. But true strength lies in integration, not suppression. Allowing yourself to feel, to release, and to transform is not a sign of weakness. It's the foundation of real power. As you move deeper into your spiritual path, your body will continue to speak. Sometimes with clarity, sometimes in mystery, but always with intention. Every shift is meaningful. When you begin to understand this connection between emotional release and physical change, you gain a new level of spiritual awareness. You stop seeing symptoms as problems and start recognizing them as progress. Healing is not always neat or linear, but it is always purposeful. You are not falling apart. You are being rebuilt. Are you experiencing physical shifts as your emotions begin to heal? These changes are not random. They're signs of deep inner transformation. If you're ready to release what no longer serves you and align your body with your soul's healing, comment below. I am releasing and healing to affirm your commitment to this powerful journey. 4. The eyes reflect spiritual growth. The eyes are often said to be the windows to the soul, and during a spiritual awakening, this becomes more than just a poetic phrase. It becomes truth made visible. One of the clearest signs that something deep is shifting within you is the sudden brightness, clarity, and intensity in your eyes. They start to look more alive, as if lit from within. This transformation isn't just about better sleep or physical health. It's a reflection of inner purification. As you release years of emotional pain, shame, regret, or trauma, your soul becomes lighter, and your eyes reflect that freedom. You're not just seeing the world differently. The world is also seeing you differently. People begin to notice. They might say, "You look different," or that your presence feels more peaceful. What they're sensing is the energy behind your eyes, the quiet strength of someone who has touched something sacred within themselves. This brightness doesn't come from trying harder or pretending to be positive. It's the natural result of healing. When you shed emotional burdens, when you truly begin to forgive yourself and others, the weight that once dulled your gaze disappears. Your eyes regain their natural radiance, their divine spark. You're no longer hiding behind unresolved emotions or masks. You are becoming transparent to your truth, and the eyes become the first place where this shows. You may even find it hard to recognize yourself in the mirror. There's a softness, a depth, a new kind of intensity that wasn't there before. That is the gaze of a soul returning to its original vibration. During a spiritual awakening, your energy begins to align with divine truth, and the eyes become a spiritual mirror. They are reflecting back to you the clarity that now exists within. This is why others are drawn to your eyes. They feel safe, seen, and somehow more connected without even knowing why. The energy behind your eyes carries the signature of spiritual awakening. As emotional healing continues, your body keeps responding. The lines of stress may soften, your expression becomes more relaxed, and your aura feels less reactive. This is not a surface-level makeover. It's your spirit changing your biology. Without any effort to control how you appear, your eyes begin to tell a different story. They no longer carry the sadness of the past, but the presence of someone who is aware, conscious, and spiritually alive. That clarity can't be faked. It's the kind of beauty that glows from the inside out. Every time you look into your eyes and notice that change, remember it's sacred. You are witnessing the evidence of inner work made visible. The soul doesn't lie, and neither do the eyes. They're not just reflecting your transformation, they are leading it. In a world filled with distraction and noise, your eyes are silently telling the truth. Something inside you is awakening, and it's more powerful than anything outside of you. That is the silent power of a true spiritual awakening. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Your spiritual growth is reflected in your eyes, and your light inspires others. Comment below. My eyes reflect my inner healing and spiritual awakening. 5. Ego death and loss of old identity. Ego death marks one of the most intense and transformative stages of a spiritual awakening. It's not merely a poetic phrase, it's the unraveling of everything you thought you were. The identity you've built over the years, based on success, roles, appearance, and the opinions of others, starts to dissolve. This sudden disconnection from your old self can bring waves of confusion, anxiety, and emotional detachment. You may no longer feel at home in your own life. The activities that once excited you, the relationships that once defined you, and even your dreams may begin to feel distant or meaningless. This is not a sign of failure. It is the shedding of false layers so that your authentic spiritual self can emerge. The ego is loud, constantly narrating your life, comparing, judging, labeling, and striving to control. But during this process, that voice begins to fade. In its place, a stillness enters a strange silence that can feel both peaceful and unsettling. Without the ego constantly reinforcing who you should be, a deeper, quieter self starts to rise. This is the part of you that was always there beneath the noise. It doesn't need titles, achievements, or external approval. It simply is. As Lao Tzu once said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." This is the essence of ego death, not destruction, but revelation. You may find yourself pulling away from people who no longer resonate with you. You might question everything about your purpose, your job, your relationships. And though this can feel like your life is falling apart, what's actually happening is alignment. Your outer world is beginning to reflect your inner shift. The people and situations that match your higher frequency begin to replace the old, even if it means walking alone for a while. It's in this solitude that deeper spiritual truths are revealed, and you begin to sense a quiet inner power rising within you. The discomfort you feel is a spiritual detox. It's the clearing of illusions. The ego, sensing its loss of control, may resist fiercely, whispering fears and doubts in your mind, but your growing awareness is stronger. You start noticing the ego's tricks and choosing not to engage. This is where true power lies, not in controlling life, but in surrendering to the higher intelligence guiding it. If you feel lost right now, unsure of who you are or where you're going, know that this is part of the awakening. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. You're being stripped of who you are not, so you can finally become who you truly are. This process requires courage, patience, and faith, but it is also the gateway to freedom. As Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." You are waking up, and though it may feel dark at times, you are stepping into your light. This journey is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Comment below, "I embrace my true self," if you're ready to release the old identity and step fully into your authentic, spiritual path. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message that supports your awakening journey. 6. Heightened sensitivity and energetic perception. You begin to notice that the emotions of others affect you more deeply than they used to. Being in a room filled with tension or negativity makes you feel uneasy, even if no words are spoken. You start sensing energy in spaces, and from objects, something feels heavy, something else feels light, and your body reacts before your mind can explain why. This isn't just emotional sensitivity. It's a shift in your spiritual perception. What you're experiencing is the opening of energetic awareness, a quiet and powerful sign that your spiritual self is waking up. You're tuning into frequencies most people never notice, and your body is becoming a vessel for deeper perception. This heightened sensitivity can be overwhelming at first. Crowded spaces may drain you. Conversations with certain people leave you exhausted. You may even feel aches or discomfort that have no medical explanation, especially after interacting with someone who is emotionally heavy. These are not random experiences. They are the result of your energy field expanding. You're no longer just processing your own feelings. You're perceiving vibrations, atmospheres, even the hidden emotional states of others. As your spiritual consciousness grows, your body becomes an instrument of subtle knowing, and every sensation is a message. However, without strong spiritual boundaries, this supersensitivity can feel more like a curse than a gift. You must learn to guard your energy. Think of yourself as a powerful antenna. Just because you can receive every frequency doesn't mean you should. This is where energy management becomes essential. Grounding practices such as walking barefoot on the earth, spending time in nature, breathing deeply, or creating intentional moments of stillness help you discharge what you've absorbed and reconnect with your inner balance. You begin to realize that not every emotional wave belongs to you, and that realization brings relief. Self-awareness is your armor. When you understand your baseline, your own natural emotional and energetic state, you can clearly recognize what is foreign. This clarity allows you to move from passive absorption to active transformation. Instead of being overwhelmed by other people's energy, you begin to influence the room with your presence. You become calm in the storm, a grounded force in chaos. As your spiritual maturity increases, your sensitivity transforms into wisdom. You learn to hold space without being consumed by what enters it. This ability to perceive and respond to unseen forces is part of your spiritual training. It's not just about becoming aware, it's about becoming responsible. You are now able to sense what others cannot, and that sensitivity, when refined, becomes a spiritual strength. What once felt like a burden reveals itself to be a hidden blessing. You realize your body has always known the truth. It has always responded to the energy around you. The difference now is that you're listening, and with that awareness, you begin to master your spiritual power. If you're learning to navigate your heightened sensitivity and turn it into spiritual strength, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your experience in the comments below. Together, let's grow in awareness and master our energy with wisdom and grace. 7. Acceleration of manifestation and energy. As your spiritual awakening deepens, one of the signs you may notice is the acceleration of manifestation. Your thoughts, intentions, and even fleeting emotions begin to materialize into reality at a much faster rate. This shift is not random. It's a direct result of your rising energetic frequency. When your vibration increases, You align more closely with universal laws, allowing the gap between thought and outcome to shorten significantly. What once took months or years to manifest now unfolds in days, sometimes even hours. This heightened sensitivity to your internal world means that your external world begins to reflect back your energy in real time, demanding a higher level of awareness, discipline, and clarity from you. But with this rapid manifestation comes intensified emotional experiences. You may begin to feel everything more deeply: joy, sorrow, peace, anxiety. Your emotions no longer hide beneath the surface. They emerge vividly, sometimes overwhelmingly, as your energetic body sheds years of repressed feelings and outdated emotional patterns. This is the body's way of purifying itself, clearing space for more refined vibrations to move through you. The tears, the mood swings, the deep inner reflection, they are not signs of regression, but evidence that healing is taking place on a soul level. You are becoming emotionally transparent because your spirit is craving truth, alignment, and freedom. As your energy continues to evolve, you'll begin to experience rapid shifts in your outer reality. Relationships that once felt stable may suddenly dissolve. Career paths may abruptly change. People who no longer align with your energy may fade away. This dismantling of the old is often uncomfortable, even painful, but it is necessary. A spiritual awakening will always destroy what is false, so that your life can be rebuilt on a foundation of truth. The changes that occur are not punishment. They are sacred invitations to step into greater authenticity. Every disruption is actually a doorway into deeper alignment with your soul's purpose. In this state of energetic acceleration, the universe no longer allows you to live unconsciously. There is no more space for self-deception, procrastination, or playing small. The consequences of your thoughts and choices arrive quickly and with clarity. You are being invited to take radical ownership of your inner state because it has become the blueprint for your external reality. Your spiritual power is no longer dormant. It is active, and it is creating. Every thought is a prayer. Every emotion is a command. Every belief becomes a magnet pulling experiences toward you. This stage of awakening requires courage. It asks you to face yourself without filters, to embrace discomfort as a catalyst for growth, and to walk through uncertainty with trust. The process is not always gentle, but it is profoundly liberating. You are not simply witnessing change. You are becoming the change. You are being initiated into a new level of consciousness where your energy is sacred, your presence is magnetic, and your alignment is the most powerful force you possess. This is the spiritual path of energetic mastery, and it begins the moment you realize that everything happening in your body is a message from your soul. Comment below, "I am ready to receive," if you feel the acceleration of your manifestations unfolding. 8. Greater spiritual clarity. When your spiritual clarity begins to deepen, it's as if a window that was once clouded by dust is suddenly wiped clean. Everything becomes sharper, not just visually, but intuitively. You begin to understand people not just by what they say, but by the energy behind their words. You notice patterns in behavior, see through illusions, and recognize truth instantly. This clarity doesn't come from logic alone. It flows from your connection to your higher self. It's knowing that can't be explained, only experienced. As this transformation unfolds, you become more attuned to the energies around you. Situations that once confused you now make sense. You start to recognize cycles and systems whether in your relationships, your workplace, or society itself. There's a heightened awareness that lets you see the deeper meaning behind everyday interactions. You may feel more sensitive, more aware of unspoken dynamics. It's not paranoia, it's perception. You're tuning into a frequency that few can access because you've chosen to walk the spiritual path with open eyes and an open heart. This increased sensitivity brings a profound sense of alignment. You're no longer forcing decisions from fear or habit. You're guided by intuition, and more often than not, you're right. You can feel when something is off before it happens. You're drawn to people and places that resonate with your soul, and you naturally pull away from anything that disrupts your peace. This isn't arrogance, it's energetic discernment. It's the spiritual maturity that comes with being connected to divine intelligence. With this clarity comes responsibility. The more you see, the more you're called to respond not with judgment, but with wisdom. You begin to realize that not everyone is meant to walk this path with you. Some will misunderstand your insight, some will resist your growth, and some will try to dim your light because it exposes their own shadows. Still, you continue walking because the clarity you've gained is too valuable to ignore. You're no longer satisfied with surface-level living. You crave truth, depth, and authenticity in all things. This clarity isn't loud. It doesn't need to shout. It's quiet, powerful, and consistent. It whispers to you in moments of stillness. It nudges you in conversations. And it speaks to you through signs, synchronicities, and dreams. It tells you when to pause, when to move, and when to let go. As your spirit becomes clearer, your life begins to reflect that clarity. You release confusion, you release noise, and you begin to live from a place of deep inner knowing. Greater spiritual clarity is not a destination. It's a new way of seeing. It's the unfolding of perception that allows you to move through the world with grace, power, and truth. Comment below, "I see clearly now," if you're beginning to experience greater spiritual clarity in your life. Or share your thoughts if your journey is unfolding differently. We'd love to hear your perspective. 9. Summary and message. Spiritual awakening is a deep, multidimensional transformation that touches every part of your being, body, mind, and soul. It's not just a shift in mindset, it's a complete reorganization of how you feel, think, and exist in the world. One of the first and most powerful indicators is the body. You may begin to notice unusual sensations tingling in your limbs, warmth in your chest, or a strange electric charge running through you. Your sleep might be disturbed. Some days you may wake up exhausted, and other days you're wide awake at 3 a.m. with your heart racing, thoughts flowing, and a sense that something is awakening within. These are not random discomforts. Your physical body is adjusting to hold more light, more awareness, and more energy than ever before. Alongside these physical signs are emotional and energetic shifts that feel just as intense. Emotions you've buried for years, anger, sadness, regret, begin to surface. This can be deeply uncomfortable, especially if you were raised to suppress emotion or power through pain. But spiritual growth demands honesty. These feelings are not resurfacing to punish you. They're rising so you can finally release them. What you're experiencing is energetic detox. The soul clears out what no longer belongs so it can create space for something more aligned, more authentic. You may even find yourself more sensitive to other people's energy or feel drained in crowds. This heightened awareness is not a weakness. It's your inner guidance system becoming stronger, clearer, and more refined. The transformation doesn't stop at the emotional level. Your thoughts begin to shift too. You may question everything about your work, your goals, even your identity. Things you once chased suddenly lose their appeal. What used to motivate you, money, status, validation, may now feel empty. Instead, you begin to crave meaning, purpose, and truth. This is not a midlife crisis. It's a soul-level awakening. It's your inner self asking you to stop living on autopilot and start choosing a life aligned with your spiritual truth. This internal pull is powerful. It forces you to reevaluate what matters and strip away what doesn't. Each change, whether in your body, your emotions, or your thoughts, is part of the same spiritual realignment. You're not falling apart. You're being rebuilt from the inside out. And while this path can feel lonely, or even chaotic at times, you are not lost. You are being guided, stretched, and prepared. The process is not always gentle, but it is always sacred. When you surrender to these changes, instead of resisting them, you discover a deeper strength. You realize that clarity, peace, and authenticity are not found by escaping discomfort, but by walking through it with awareness and courage. What you are experiencing is not just personal, it's spiritual. You're aligning with something far greater than your old self. Trust the process, allow the transformation, and know that everything you're going through is leading you to the most empowered, grounded, and spiritually awakened version of yourself. To affirm your commitment to spiritual growth, declare your devotion to the journey. Comment below. I trust the process to honor your transformation and inspire others to embrace their awakening with courage and faith. Thank you for joining us on this eye-opening journey through the signs of spiritual awakening in the body. Remember, these physical and emotional shifts are not random. They are sacred messages from within, guiding you toward higher awareness and deeper alignment with your true self. Embrace the changes, trust the process, and know that you are not alone on this path of transformation. If this video spoke to your soul, don't forget to like, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more powerful insights. Tap the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos that support your awakening journey. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and keep rising.